Among the countless narratives woven into the fabric of sacred texts, some whisper secrets far beyond their surface, challenging our very understanding of the divine. We often relegate tales like Balaam and the speaking donkey to simple parables, charming fables for the young, overlooking the profound, often uncomfortable truths they conceal. Yet beneath this seemingly whimsical story lies what might be considered a forbidden revelation, a testament to prophecy, power, and an unyielding divine sovereignty that radically redefines the nature of miracles themselves. This is not merely a tale of divine intervention. It is a profound spiritual crossroads where human ambition clashes with an unyielding divine will, setting the stage for one of Scripture's most bewildering and deeply symbolic encounters. The true enigma here isn't merely the astonishing act of an animal speaking, but the astonishing spiritual blindness of a prophet, a man gifted with divine sight, whose journey forces us to confront the deepest paradoxes of faith and human fallibility. It is a mystery not of hidden scrolls, but of an overlooked message, echoing through millennia, inviting us to look closer. Our journey begins in a landscape steeped in ancient history and divine promise, where the echoes of prophecy seem to hang in the air like desert dust. Picture the vast, sun-baked plains of Moab, stretching under an immense, indifferent sky, where the desert winds carry whispers of empires long past and destinies yet to unfold. It is here, thousands of years ago, that the nascent nation of Israel, God's chosen people, stood on the precipice of the Promised Land, their arduous journey from bondage culminating at the edge of a new inheritance. Their burgeoning presence, a force blessed by the divine, cast a long shadow across the established kingdoms of the region. Faced with this formidable new power, King Balak of Moab, gripped by fear and desperation, sought a solution beyond the sword. He turned to Balaam, a renowned prophet whose reputation for both blessing and cursing was legendary, a man whose spiritual gifts were undeniable, yet whose moral compass remained ambiguous, often swayed by earthly desires. This pivotal moment transcends mere historical record. It is a spiritual gambit, a desperate attempt to manipulate divine forces at a critical juncture for God's people, setting the stage for an extraordinary confrontation. The central mystery of this encounter unfolds not in the miracle itself, but in Balaam's profound spiritual blindness. Despite his undeniable prophetic gifts, his heart was tragically swayed by Balak's promise of gold and prestige, leading him down a path directly opposed by the angel of the Lord. This divine messenger, invisible to the prophet's eyes, became an insurmountable obstacle, an unseen barrier only his humble donkey could perceive. Here lies the core conflict, a startling dissonance, a revered prophet, capable of seeing visions of the distant future and hearing the voice of the Almighty, yet utterly blind to the immediate, imminent divine warning in his path. Meanwhile, a simple beast of burden, a mere animal, became the unexpected vessel of God's truth, perceiving what the spiritually arrogant human could not. The wonder here is not just a talking animal, but the profound reversal of spiritual perception, a testament to where true discernment often resides. This narrative, therefore, evolves beyond the initial awe of a supernatural event to a deeper discovery of its multifaceted spiritual layers. The talking donkey transcends its literal astonishing act. It symbolizes God's radical ability to speak through the most unassuming, often overlooked channels, a stark rebuke to human pride and spiritual arrogance. It's a testament that true discernment often requires looking beyond the obvious, listening to the unheard, and recognizing divine wisdom in the least expected places, even if it comes from the mouth of a beast. Balaam's tragic journey, a man of divine insight compromised by personal gain, serves as a potent warning against spiritual mercenary ISM. The forbidden story is not about a hidden text, but about the uncomfortable truth of human fallibility, even within spiritual leadership, and the radical humility required to truly hear the divine voice. It implores us to ask, are we too sometimes so fixated on our own agendas or perceived wisdom that we fail to see the angel in our path, or hear the divine truth speaking through the most unexpected voices of our modern world? Our journey into the profound layers of Balaam's encounter compels us to explore the broader tapestry of the ancient world, understanding the spiritual landscape from which such a mysterious figure emerged. Balaam, a prophet not of Israel but from Pethor near the Euphrates, stood at a spiritual crossroads where the sophisticated divinatory traditions of Mesopotamia met the nascent radical monotheism of Israel. This was a world teeming with seers, oracles, and practitioners of various forms of magic and prophecy, where kings sought divine favor and cursed their enemies through spiritual means. Imagine the vast, fertile crescent, a cradle of civilizations like Sumer, Akkad, and Babylon, where the wisdom of the stars was charted, and omens were meticulously read from animal entrails and the flight of birds. Balaam's gifts, though seemingly independent of Israel's covenant, were part of a widespread human impulse to connect with the divine, a testament to God's universal presence, even among those who did not explicitly know him. This era was a spiritual marketplace, vibrant and often tumultuous, where the lines between true divine revelation and human manipulation were frequently blurred. While Israel's prophets spoke with a clear, direct voice from Yahweh, Balaam's methods likely resonated with the more common divinatory practices of his time, seeking insights through dreams, trances, and omens. Yet, even within this diverse spiritual context, the God of Israel demonstrated an unparalleled sovereignty, as seen in the Exodus. The plagues of Egypt, the parting of the Red Sea, and the miraculous provision in the wilderness were not merely historical events. They were divine declarations, shattering the power of Egyptian gods and magicians, and sending ripples of awe and terror across neighboring kingdoms. Balak's fear of Israel, and his desperate appeal to Balaam, was not superstitious fancy, but a rational response to an undeniable, overwhelming divine force recently unleashed upon the world. Israel, emerging from Egyptian bondage, was a nation forged by a unique, direct covenant with the Creator of the universe. Their God, Yahweh, was unlike any deity known in the polytheistic pantheons of the ancient Near East. He demanded exclusive worship, his laws were founded on justice and righteousness, and his presence was manifest in a pillar of cloud by day and fire by night, guiding his people through the wilderness. This radical departure from the norm created a spiritual tension, a direct challenge to the established order of spiritual power. The very existence of Israel, blessed and protected by an unseen, all-powerful God, was a living prophecy, a testament to divine will that transcended human understanding or manipulation. It was into this charged atmosphere that Balaam, a man of profound spiritual gifts yet susceptible to earthly desires, was summoned, unknowingly stepping into a cosmic drama far greater than any king's commission. The true, forbidden revelation embedded within Balaam's origins lies in God's willingness to communicate and intervene through channels beyond the chosen covenant. Balaam, a non-Israelite prophet, received genuine divine visions and prophecies directly from Yahweh, a truth that challenges our often narrow perceptions of divine exclusivity. This demonstrates a profound aspect of God's nature. His sovereignty extends over all peoples, all nations, and indeed all creation. He is not confined by human-made boundaries or religious distinctions. The mystery's roots affirm that divine truth can pierce through any cultural or spiritual framework, revealing itself even to those outside a specific lineage, if their hearts are open, or if the divine purpose demands it. It forces us to confront the uncomfortable truth that God's methods are often far more expansive and surprising than our theological constructs allow. This deep-rooted mystery further illuminates the symbolic weight of the talking donkey and the unseen angel of the Lord. The angel, often understood as a pre-incarnate manifestation of Christ, or a divine messenger acting with God's authority, represents the direct, undeniable presence of the divine, standing as an immutable barrier. The donkey, a creature of humble servitude, becomes the unexpected conduit for this divine truth, her perception unclouded by the prophet's ambition. This profound reversal of spiritual sight, where a beast sees what a seer cannot, echoes a universal spiritual principle woven throughout history. True wisdom often resides not in exalted status or renowned gifts, but in humility and openness to divine will. It is a revelation that reverberates across millennia, inviting us to question the sources of our own discernment. As we trace the historical and spiritual roots of this mystery, we find its echoes resonating through subsequent eras. The struggle between genuine divine revelation and deceptive prophecy, between spiritual integrity and worldly gain, became a recurring theme in Israelite history and continued to challenge later civilizations. In the prophetic books of Israel, false prophets are often denounced, their greed and self-interest contrasted with the unwavering truth of God's messengers. Later, even the Roman Empire, with its vast pantheon and its own system of oracles and augurs, would grapple with the concept of divine intervention and the enigmatic nature of prophecy, often fearing or attempting to manipulate spiritual forces for political gain. Balaam's story, therefore, transcends its immediate context, becoming a timeless archetype for the perils of spiritual compromise. The enduring legacy of Balaam's spiritual blindness and the speaking donkey's profound insight lies in its universal applicability. This forbidden truth is not confined to ancient scrolls or a specific historical moment. It speaks to the continuous human struggle to discern truth amidst the clamor of self-interest and worldly ambition. The mystery's origins reveal a consistent divine pattern: God's unwavering protection over His chosen, and His radical willingness to break through conventional expectations to deliver His message. It teaches us that spiritual arrogance can render even the most gifted blind, while humility can open the eyes of the most unassuming. This foundational paradox, rooted in ancient Moab, remains as relevant today as it was when the desert winds first carried the sound of a speaking beast. Ultimately, the origins of this hidden truth are not merely historical footnotes but foundational spiritual principles. They reveal a God whose sovereignty is absolute, whose communication is boundless, and whose protection over His purposes is unwavering. The story of Balaam and his donkey, born from the clash of empires and divine will, serves as a timeless spiritual compass, pointing us towards the radical humility required to truly hear the divine voice. It implores us to look beyond the obvious, to listen to the unheard, and to recognize that the most profound truths often emerge from the most unexpected places, challenging our pride and inviting us into a deeper, more expansive understanding of the sacred. The very moment the donkey spoke, a silence deeper than the desert night must have fallen upon Balaam, shattering his worldly perceptions. It was not merely the astonishment of an animal articulating human speech. It was the sudden, brutal unveiling of a spiritual reality he had willfully ignored. The humble beast, with eyes unclouded by greed, saw the angel of the Lord standing sword drawn in the path, an invisible barrier of divine will. This dramatic intervention, often dismissed as a fanciful detail, is in fact the core, forbidden revelation. God's voice can pierce through the most unexpected vessels, rebuking human arrogance and revealing spiritual blindness in those who claim divine sight. Balaam, a man accustomed to manipulating spiritual forces for profit, was confronted with an unyielding sovereignty that operated beyond his control, a truth far more unsettling than any talking animal. His journey was not just physical, but a profound descent into the depths of his own spiritual delusion, illuminated by the very creature he sought to dominate. This profound reversal of spiritual perception, the prophet blind, the donkey seeing, symbolizes an eternal truth. True wisdom often resides not in exalted status or renowned gifts, but in humility and openness to divine will. The angel of the Lord, a manifestation of divine power, stood as an immovable sentinel, representing God's unwavering protection over His chosen people. Balaam's inability to see this divine guardian, despite his prophetic visions, underscores the insidious nature of spiritual pride and material desire. He was so fixated on the promise of Balak's gold and prestige that his spiritual eyes were effectively shut to the immediate, imminent danger. The donkey, unburdened by such desires, perceived the divine presence with clarity. Her persistent resistance, a desperate attempt to save her master from a fatal confrontation. It's a stark reminder that sometimes the most profound warnings come from the most unassuming sources, if only we are humble enough to listen. From this astonishing confrontation, a deeper truth emerges regarding the nature of prophecy itself. God's sovereignty utterly overrides human intention. Balaam, summoned to curse Israel, found his lips bound by a power far greater than Balak's gold or his own will. Each time he opened his mouth, prepared to utter maledictions, only blessings flowed forth, divinely compelled. This was not a mere change of heart. It was a testament to an unyielding divine purpose that could transform even the most corrupted prophetic vessel into a conduit for his benevolent decrees. The forbidden revelation. Here is the radical extent of God's control, demonstrating that his plans for his people cannot be thwarted by any human or spiritual force. He can turn curses into blessings, transforming an act of malice into a declaration of divine favor, ensuring his will prevails regardless of the prophet's personal agenda or moral failings. The prophecies Balaam eventually uttered were not just blessings. They were profound declarations of Israel's unique destiny, their numerical strength, and their divine protection. He spoke of a nation set apart, dwelling securely, their God with them, and their enemies unable to prevail. These pronouncements, coming from a pagan prophet, carried an undeniable weight, echoing across the plains of Moab and instilling awe and fear in Balak's heart. The irony was palpable. The very man hired to diminish Israel's power became the unwilling mouthpiece for their exaltation. This moment crystallizes the essence of divine sovereignty, revealing that God can use even his adversaries to proclaim his truth and solidify his promises. It is a powerful affirmation that his divine blueprint for humanity unfolds irrespective of, and often in spite of, human machinations, forever redirecting malice into divine affirmation. Among Balaam's compelled prophecies, one stands out as a truly profound, often overlooked revelation, the prophecy of the star out of Jacob and a scepter out of Israel. This ancient utterance, delivered millennia before its fulfillment, points directly to a future king, a powerful leader who would rise from Israel to conquer its enemies and establish dominion. Scholars and theologians across centuries have interpreted this as a messianic prophecy, foretelling the coming of Christ, the ultimate king who would bring salvation and everlasting peace. That such a pivotal, world-altering prophecy should come from a non-Israelite prophet, a man whose spiritual integrity was compromised, deepens the mystery and heightens its significance. It is a testament to God's boundless wisdom, planting seeds of future truth in the most unexpected and even forbidden soils, ensuring his divine narrative unfolds through diverse channels. This particular prophecy underscores a forbidden truth about the universality of divine revelation. God's communication is not exclusively confined to the chosen covenant or specific religious traditions. Balaam, a Mesopotamian seer, received genuine, profound visions directly from Yahweh, the God of Israel, and delivered prophecies that transcended his immediate context and pointed towards a universal Savior. This challenges our often narrow perceptions of divine exclusivity, revealing a God whose sovereignty extends over all peoples, all nations, and indeed all creation. He is not confined by human-made boundaries or religious distinctions. The mystery's roots affirm that divine truth can pierce through any cultural or spiritual framework, revealing itself even to those outside a specific lineage, if their hearts are open, or if the divine purpose demands it, showcasing an expansive, inclusive reach of the sacred. Yet, despite his profound prophecies and direct encounters with the divine, Balaam's story carries a sobering warning against spiritual compromise and mercenary ISM. Though he blessed Israel under divine compulsion, his heart remained captivated by worldly gain. Later scriptures reveal he advised Balak on how to corrupt Israel through seduction and idolatry, leading to a plague that decimated thousands. This tragic twist illuminates the forbidden truth that having divine gifts does not guarantee spiritual integrity. A prophet can speak God's words yet harbor a heart far from him, using spiritual insight for personal advantage. Balaam's ultimate demise in battle against Israel serves as a potent, timeless lesson. The pursuit of divine power without genuine devotion and moral clarity inevitably leads to spiritual downfall, a stark reminder that true faith demands unwavering allegiance, not opportunistic manipulation. The subtle dangers of spiritual pride and self-interest are thus unveiled as a central theme. Balaam's journey becomes a mirror reflecting our own potential for spiritual blindness, even when we believe we are walking in divine light. How often do we, too, become so fixated on our own agendas, our desire for recognition, or our pursuit of earthly rewards, that we fail to perceive the angel in our path. The unseen barriers we create through our own desires can obscure the clearest divine warnings, making us deaf to the most obvious truths, even when they speak through unexpected voices. This narrative compels us to look inward, to examine the true motivations behind our spiritual pursuits, and to recognize that genuine discernment requires a constant posture of humility, a willingness to be corrected, and an openness to truth, no matter its source. This profound mystery, therefore, transcends its ancient setting, speaking directly to the human condition across millennia. It implores us to actively cultivate a radical humility, to look beyond the obvious, and to listen to the unheard. In our modern world, where information saturates every corner and voices clamor for attention, the forbidden truth of Balaam's encounter urges us to question the sources of our own discernment. Are we truly hearing the divine voice, or are we allowing our biases, our ambitions, or our perceived wisdom to create an invisible angel in our path? The story teaches us that divine wisdom can emerge from the most unassuming channels, from the least expected voices, challenging our pride and inviting us into a deeper, more expansive understanding of the sacred. Ultimately, the story of Balaam and the speaking donkey leaves us with a transcendent reflection, an enlightened peace found in the understanding of God's absolute sovereignty and boundless love. It reveals a God who is not confined by human expectations or limitations, a God who protects his people with an unwavering hand, and who communicates his truth through radical, often unsettling means. The forbidden revelation is not about a hidden text, but about the profound, uncomfortable truth of human fallibility and the radical humility required to truly hear the divine voice. As the echoes of this ancient tale fade, we are left with a quiet assurance. The divine narrative unfolds according to a perfect plan, inviting us to shed our blindness, embrace humility, and find peace in the boundless wisdom of a God whose ways are indeed higher than our own. The true meaning of Balaam's astonishing encounter dawns upon us not as a quaint fable, but as a profound illumination, a beacon piercing through the ancient mists of time. This narrative, once relegated to the realm of children's tales, now casts its pure, revealing light upon the intricate tapestry of divine sovereignty and human fallibility. The talking donkey, no longer a mere whimsical detail, stands as a powerful, enduring symbol, a testament to God's radical ability to purify our perception, revealing truth in the most unexpected forms. Emerging from the sun-baked plains of Moab, this ancient account acts as a spiritual lens, bringing into sharp focus the often unseen dynamics of divine intervention and the subtle, yet pervasive, dangers of spiritual pride. It calls us to a deeper understanding, inviting us to shed the shadows of our own preconceived notions and step into the radiant clarity of its profound message, a message of renewal for the discerning heart, offering a fresh perspective on the sacred. Central to this purification of spiritual sight is the uncompromising call for humility, etched into the very core of Balaam's story. His profound spiritual blindness, starkly juxtaposed with his humble donkey's clear vision of the angel of the Lord, serves as an eternal object lesson for all who seek divine truth. It reminds us that genuine spiritual discernment is not solely a product of intellectual prowess, exalted status, or even profound prophetic giftings, but rather flows from a heart emptied of arrogance, receptive to guidance from any source. In our modern world, where ego often dictates our perceptions and where our biases are frequently reinforced by the echoes of our own chosen narratives, this ancient lesson resonates with poignant relevance. It challenges us to humble ourselves, to actively question our assumptions, and to recognize that divine wisdom often speaks through the unassuming, the overlooked, and even the seemingly insignificant, offering a pathway to profound spiritual renewal. The narrative also powerfully reinforces the absolute, unyielding sovereignty of God, a truth that shines like a guiding star through the ancient accounts. Balaam, summoned with mercenary intent to utter curses against Israel, found his lips bound by a power far greater than Balak's gold or his own will. Each time, only blessings flowed forth, his human intention utterly overridden by a divine purpose that could not be thwarted. This is a profound source of hope in a world often gripped by fear, uncertainty, and the weight of seemingly insurmountable challenges. It assures us that even amidst profound chaos, divine order ultimately prevails. Even when human malice conspires, God's benevolent plan for His people remains inviolable. This truth offers profound solace, suggesting that despite the perceived darkness, a divine light of purpose continually guides history, turning even the darkest intentions into instruments for His ultimate good, ensuring a path to redemption. Perhaps the most radical and purifying insight offered by this ancient narrative is God's profound willingness to speak through the utterly unexpected. The talking donkey is far more than a mere miracle. It is a divine statement, a deliberate shattering of conventional expectations. God chose the lowliest of creatures, a humble beast of burden, to rebuke a renowned prophet, thereby demonstrating that spiritual truth is not confined to exalted status or human renown. In our modern era, we often seek truth from polished pulpits, esteemed academics, or influential, charismatic voices. Yet the divine frequently whispers through the marginalized, the unconventional, the overlooked, or even the seemingly profane. This challenges our inherent fears of the unknown, prompting us to broaden our spiritual antennae, to listen for truths that might defy our established norms, offering a purification of our preconceived notions and a renewed understanding of God's boundless communication, a genuine path to spiritual redemption. Balaam's ultimate downfall, despite his undeniable prophetic gifts and direct encounters with the divine, serves as a sobering and timeless warning against spiritual compromise. His heart remained tragically swayed by worldly gain, leading him, after delivering divine blessings, to advise Balak on how to corrupt Israel through seduction and idolatry. This forbidden truth reveals that possessing divine gifts does not inherently guarantee spiritual integrity. A prophet can speak God's very words, yet harbor a heart far from Him, using spiritual insight for personal advantage. This resonates deeply with modern spiritual challenges, where leaders and individuals alike can possess outward piety or powerful ministries, yet fall prey to hidden greed, unchecked ambition, or profound moral failings. It forces us to confront our own potential for spiritual blindness, stirring a fear that we, too, might be outwardly gifted yet inwardly compromised, necessitating a constant purification of our deepest motives. The path to redemption and spiritual renewal, therefore, lies in a steadfast commitment to inner purity and genuine, unadulterated devotion. Balaam's profound tragedy reminds us that true faith demands unwavering allegiance, a singular focus on divine will, rather than opportunistic manipulation of sacred gifts for worldly gain. It invites us to a profound introspection, urging us to examine the true motivations behind our spiritual pursuits. Are we genuinely seeking God's will above all else? Or are we subtly bending divine truth to serve our own agendas, our own desires for power or recognition? This ancient story, illuminated by the purifying light of radical humility, guides us towards a continuous path of spiritual renewal, urging us to align our hearts completely with divine purpose. It is a journey of shedding layers of self-deception, allowing us to embrace the radiant clarity of God's unadulterated truth, offering profound hope for a transformed and morally upright life. Ultimately, the narrative of Balaam and the speaking donkey emerges as an enduring beacon of hope, shining brightly through the corridors of time, especially resonant in times overshadowed by fear and uncertainty. It teaches us that even when humanity falters, even when spiritual leaders stumble, God's protective hand over His chosen purposes remains steadfast and unwavering. The light of divine truth, though sometimes seemingly obscured by human failings or the clamor of worldly distractions, always pierces the deepest shadows, revealing the path forward. This unwavering promise reassures us that no human machination, no worldly power, no spiritual compromise can ultimately thwart the divine plan unfolding across creation. It offers a profound sense of peace and security, reminding us that there is a higher, benevolent order, a divine intelligence guiding the cosmos, offering redemption from despair and a renewed faith in the face of daunting, modern challenges. As the echoes of this ancient tale fade into the quiet reverence of our deeper understanding, we are left not with lingering questions, but with a profound, enlightened peace. The forbidden revelation, at its heart, is not about a hidden scroll or a lost prophecy, but about the uncomfortable yet transformative truth of human fallibility and the radical humility required to truly hear the divine voice. It implores us to look beyond the obvious, to listen intently to the unheard, and to recognize that the most profound and purifying truths often emerge from the most unexpected places, challenging our pride and expanding our spiritual horizons. In this journey of spiritual discovery, we find ultimate solace in God's absolute sovereignty, His boundless communication, and His unwavering protection over His purposes. We are invited to shed our spiritual blindness, embrace genuine humility, and find enduring peace in the boundless wisdom of a God whose ways are indeed higher than our own, illuminating our path with an eternal, guiding light. Our journey through the ancient plains of Moab, illuminated by the astonishing tale of Balaam and his speaking donkey, culminates not in a definitive answer to a historical riddle, but in a profound spiritual awakening. What began as a seemingly simple narrative, often relegated to the realm of fables, has unfolded into a complex tapestry of divine sovereignty, human fallibility, and the radical humility required to perceive sacred truth. We have witnessed how spiritual blindness can afflict even the most gifted, and how divine wisdom can emerge from the most unexpected, even forbidden, sources. The true revelation lies not in the literal miracle of a talking beast, but in the piercing insight it offers into our own perceptions, urging us to question where we seek truth and how readily we embrace it, especially when it challenges our preconceived notions or personal ambitions. This ancient encounter, therefore, stands as an eternal beacon, guiding us past superficial understandings to the deeper, often uncomfortable, truths embedded within the divine narrative, purifying our spiritual sight. In the quiet aftermath of this revelation, we are invited to consider how these ancient echoes resonate within the intricate fabric of our modern lives. The lessons from Balaam's journey, the perils of spiritual arrogance, the deceptive allure of worldly gain, and the profound wisdom found in humility are not confined to dusty scrolls, but are living principles guiding our everyday existence. How often do we, too, find ourselves so driven by our own agendas, our desires for recognition, or our comfort in familiar narratives, that we fail to see the angel in our path, the clear warnings or divine guidance speaking through unconventional channels? This mystery implores us to cultivate a radical openness, to listen intently to the marginalized voices, to question our biases, and to recognize that true discernment often requires a willingness to be challenged, to see beyond the obvious, and to embrace wisdom from the most unassuming sources, transforming our perception of the sacred. As the final echoes of this profound narrative settle within our hearts, we are left not with apprehension, but with a transcendent sense of peace, awe, and deep gratitude. The forbidden revelation ultimately assures us of a divine order that transcends all human failings, a God whose sovereignty is absolute, whose communication is boundless, and whose protective hand over His purposes is unwavering. It is a peace born from understanding that even when humanity falters, a higher, benevolent will guides the cosmos, perpetually turning potential curses into blessings, and transforming human ambition into instruments of divine grace. This journey into hidden truths invites us to shed our spiritual blindness, embrace humility, and find enduring solace in the boundless wisdom of a God whose ways are indeed higher than our own, illuminating our path with an eternal, guiding light, fostering a profound connection to the divine.